Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and greetings, everyone. This is the Psychic Inside Show. I'm your host, Joelle, the Viberarian, and I'm here to elevate, enlighten, and empower you with information that I hope that you will find enlightening and uplifting and certainly positive. Now, every Tuesday evening on the Psychic Inside Show, I bring people to the forum so that you have an opportunity to hear their story, because I believe that everyone is psychic. You just may not recognize it. And so in coming and hearing these stories that people share, hopefully something will trigger for you and you will understand that you have these gifts and abilities as well. So every Tuesday evening we're here from 9 till somewhere between 10:30 and 11 o'clock, depending on the flow. You can call in at 646-668-8988 to listen to the show. If you have a question or would like to make a comment, then you can just press the 1 key, and my screener will contact with you, and we'll get you on the air as soon as possible. Now, I've also got a community out in virtual space. Like everyone, I have a Facebook page. So if you're out there and would like to connect, please join my community. I like to call them the Good Vibe Tribe. You can find me if you search for the Viberarian, and that is V as in vibe, I-B-E as in energy, R-A-R-I-A-N. Now, on Facebook, you'll see all of the shows that I have out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, as well as classes, workshops, events around the Atlanta area and beyond, and then also articles and shares that I think are going to benefit you and make your day a little better. Those can be memes, pictures, articles, all kinds of stuff. And I certainly invite you to connect with me in that space and add your own contribution to the energy, because you know your vibe attracts your tribe, and I truly believe that. So I'm trying to bring together all those who are positive and uplifting energy together. Of course, everyone's on Instagram, because we like to see all those lovely pictures and inspiring memes. So you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well, the same handle, at The Viberarian. You can subscribe to these broadcasts in iTunes and then also through my YouTube channel. Now, YouTube doesn't think I'm big enough to have my own channel name yet, but eventually I'll get there with enough subscribers. So click on over and search for The VIberary, VIberary, and there you will find all of the archives of the guests that I've had on the shows previously, as well as different oracle readings and more motivational messages. So I invite you to connect with me there. I'm trying to be worldwide, everyone, and I so appreciate when everybody tunes in for these shows. I have an awesome time because I get to talk to wonderful and amazing people and hear fascinating stories. So it's kind of wonderful to be able to share that with my audience. Tonight on the Psychic Inside Show, I'm very, very excited. I've been waiting for quite some time to snag this young lady and get her schedule, get a moment on her schedule, because I swear she's a busy bee. I wanted to share with you that a few weeks ago I got an invitation to go to a complimentary workshop, a webinar, and I love these things, because I'm like, let me see what people have to say if I can learn something. So I sat down in front of my computer for an hour with this group called the Akashic Academy. Now, I didn't have a lot of familiarity, but I'm an explorer, so I wanted to tune in and see what it was about. And as soon as I dialed in, this bright and smiling face popped up on the screen, and I spent the next hour totally engaged with the facilitator of this particular webinar, and her name is Emily Harrison. I became a fan at that moment because she really did deliver 3 things that were promised in the webinar information, which I like when that actually happens. And her personality was just so bright and sunshiny and vibrant that I said, I want to connect further with the community that she's creating. So for the past couple of months, I've been listening to her teach. listening to her impart her wisdom and her motivations through her Akashic Academy. And I said, I would love to get on because I know just a little bit about her, but I'd love to go in deeper. So tonight I'm so excited to have you on the show. Emily, welcome to the Psychic Inside.
Oh, my goodness, Joelle, that might be the most incredible introduction I've ever heard. You just made me like myself a little bit more. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I meant every word of it. I have to say, there is a lot of content out there that people are producing, and I've clicked on more than one webinar that was free that wound up just being dry and dull, or I felt that I was just filling up a seat in order to fulfill a sales need. But I did not get that sense from you because you really were like talking actionable things, and I really did walk away with some very good information just in that hour, and I felt that I would have paid for that hour had I known what the content was going to be like. So I had no idea who you were, and so I want to talk a little bit about your backstory. You've shared bits and pieces with us in your community, and of course when I was Googling in order to find out a little bit more about your bio, it's not every day I get to look at the Internet Movie Database, IMDb, and find a bio of one of the guests on my show, but that is certainly the case with you. So what is your Bright Lights Big City backstory? Where might people recognize you?
How did I end up on IMDb?
The
Internet Database, right? So there is a good backstory with me, and there's a reason why my entertainment background was so important. And that really, it filters into how I share information and how I teach today. People learn in a lot of different ways. And we learn through visual methods, we learn through audio methods. A lot of people learn through experience. We learn through storytelling. There are many different ways that we actually learn information. And I think when somebody is able to marry a lot of those ways together and then bring some storytelling and some entertainment and just some simple lightness of being, because there's so much heaviness in our world today that people really gravitate towards that, and they appreciate that. So I do. I have a history in Hollywood that I didn't realize while I was going through Hollywood was actually preparation for what I would move into what I would call my light working years. But it really was. It was a really big part of how I recognized I was psychic, was in Hollywood. But my story starts even before Hollywood. It starts, I am that typical, like the stories you hear of the small Midwest girl, the small town girl, getting off the bus in Hollywood, seeking her fame and fortune. Guys, that's totally me. Like, I grew up in a town of around 3,000 people. Louisiana, Missouri, which a lot of people get that confused because I say Louisiana and they think the state. There's actually a very small town right on the Mississippi River named Louisiana, Missouri. Fun fact to know and tell, Lewis and Clark were the first to settle that town and named it Louisiana, similar after the state. The state was named after the town. Our town was actually settled first. But it was the first town settled west of the Mississippi River. It's the true gateway to the west. And also really interesting, in the small town that I grew up in, the Underground Railroad ran through that town as well. So I had not only the Mississippi River, which was the eastern border of town, and as I learned more and more about energy, and this wasn't until, 30, 40 years later. I'm 40 years old now. So this was, I grew up in this town when I was a girl before I went to college. Later on, as I learned about energy healing, and the more I dive into understanding things like the crystalline grid of the planet and the Christ consciousness grid of the planet, I recognized that the Mississippi River is one of the tributaries of the crystalline grid. So that made me feel proud. Like, I was like, oh, I grew up right on that river. Well, of course I soaked up all that good energy while I was there. Another really interesting thing about the town I grew up in, like I said, was the Underground Railroad. And for those of you guys who'd like a little history lesson, you remember when the North and the South were fighting back in a time when slavery was still present here in the United States, that the Underground Railroad was tunnels and passageways underground where slaves escaped into freedom. And that also became part of my paradigm, kind of part of my story, is that I really am inspired in freeing people, in freeing their minds, and freeing their hearts. I feel like just like we talked about, many of us are psychic. We're all slaves here too until we free ourselves. You know, we become slaves to the way this society works. I mean, how many of us have a job just so we can make money, just so we can pay our bills, so we can afford the things that we have? We become slaves to this system where we don't ever really give ourselves time to say, who am I? Like, outside of this job that I go to and this money that I'm trying to make, like, who am I? In my mind, in my heart, when I allow that to be free, what else is out there for me to learn? So those were two really interesting components of my small town past that I carry with me still today, that I realize are symbolically part of how I'm helping humanity now. So grew up in this really small town, all up in the Southern Baptist Church, you guys, like full on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday I went to youth group. I was going to church camp. I was witnessing to my friends, which made me a little uncomfortable, I have to say, but I still did it because that's what they say you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to bring everybody to Jesus. So I was trying to sign people up for Jesus, right? I taught Bible school. My mama was a Sunday school teacher. Like it was my life. It was a lot of my life because it was supposed to be, and because I was a bit of a rule follower. I'm an interesting mix of a rule follower and then a rule breaker. Like I do both. I see the positive in both of those things. And I was immersed in this environment because, again, it gets conditioned into how I grew up. There was always a part of it, though, that I have to say didn't make me feel better about myself. You know, when the preacher would get up and talk about all the ways that we had sinned and I just feel so bad and so guilty and just like I needed to repent. And while I find there's value in acknowledging the areas of our life where we missed the mark and we can shift and change, I didn't like that feeling of feeling so guilty and feeling so separate from source because I made a bad choice. Like it didn't work for me. Didn't work for me at all. And although the singing, boy, you get in there and you start like being around that music, like that lit me up inside. You know, I felt the closest to spirit in those moments when the singing and the music was happening. And, of course, music, sound, what an incredible healing tool on our planet. Sound is such an important thing to really consider when we look at this zone as a creation zone. Like the earth is a school that we come and we learn how to create. We learn how to become good manifestors while we're here. And how do we do that? Sound is a huge component. Whether you subscribe to the Big Bang or whether you subscribe to God spoke the universe into existence, there's sound involved. And, you know, many of you guys, you know about The Secret and the law of attraction. When we use our voice to speak whatever it is that becomes our truth, whatever we're speaking, we're creating every time we're using our voice to speak. Our voice is a huge chakra, hugely involved in the manifesting process. So the idea of sound in music was always very intriguing and inspiring to me. But like I said, I didn't really like those feelings of guilt and separation. And as I grew up and I graduated from high school and I moved on to college, I went to University of Missouri and I joined a sorority and tried to figure out my life path. And I just, again, wasn't working for me. The sorority life, which I'd always been really social and liked being around a lot of people. I didn't love this environment. I was just like, ugh, this isn't working for me. And furthermore, to be honest with you, getting up and going to class wasn't working for me either. I was just like, I don't like this. This is not working one bit. Just I wasn't inspired.
That's ironic.
Well,
that's very ironic.
I love to study and learn, right? I think I was in the wrong space. And I had started doing some modeling in college, and I had gone to the East Coast for what was a modeling convention. But there happened to be some acting things that they were bringing into this modeling convention, some opportunities to act and to meet some casting directors. And I thought, oh, well, that sounds kind of interesting. Granted, I had never really even done a school play. Like, I had done plays when I was younger, and I liked doing them. There have been a couple times in my life when I've been intimidated, Joelle. Doesn't happen a whole lot, but in high school, I was intimidated to be in the school play. So I kind of backed off from any kind of acting at that point in time. I was a dancer. Dancing was my thing in high school, and I loved to dance. So when I went to college, okay, so this is the second time I chickened out on something in my life. There was a really highly acclaimed dance team there at the University of Missouri, and I went to the first couple days of the auditions, and then I chickened out. I was like, oh, I don't think I'm good enough to try out for this. And so those were two times in my life that I remember I was a big old chicken and I chickened out. But when I went to this modeling convention on the East Coast, I decided to give the acting another try. Like, I had had enough moments of chickening out in my life, and learned valuable lessons from those when I got all scared and ran away. I didn't want to do that this time. I really wanted to embrace this opportunity. And so I did, and I jumped in, and I went in and just blindly started reading for some casting directors. At the time, I don't know how many of you guys remember that show, Party of Five. It was a really big show for quite a while.
Oh.
But the cast, you remember that show? Yeah, so the casting director for that show, he was talking to me, and he was like, this show that you would have been great in. And he was like, I think you should come to Hollywood. And I was like, I do too. He's like, he had me. He had me at hello. When he spoke those words to me, all of a sudden it was like, yes, I think you're right. I should be in Hollywood. So without ever really having...
How old were you, at this time? Were you like 20-ish, 19, 20,
I was
21?
I was 19 years old. Good job.
Oh, wow.
Good psychic skills there, Joelle. You got it. Yeah, I was 19 years old. And he had inspired me. Like, I was headed for big lights from that point. And since school wasn't inspiring me and I just wasn't really getting the satisfaction, like, I needed an adventure at that point in time. I had spent all of this time being the good girl, going to class. I got great grades in high school. Everything really kind of came easy to me, but I just wasn't inspired anymore, and I needed adventure. I needed something outside of the box in my life. So, boy, I got it. I went from that town of 3,000 people, and I upgraded it a little bit when I went to college. I think there were 70,000 people in the town, so it was quite a bit bigger. And then from that point, I was like, I'm going to Hollywood. This is my next stop. So I finished up classes for that semester, packed up my car. I got a For Rent magazine. I think I ordered it from, I don't know, online somewhere. For Rent magazine shows up at my door.
Yes,
I started looking through. I started looking for a place to rent, sight unseen. I'm losing my mind because all the places are like $600 an apartment, which of course now that would be a steal, wouldn't it? But coming from this really small town, it felt like thousands of dollars. I thought, how am I ever going to pull this off? Like, what the heck? But I did it anyway. I packed up. I took all of the savings that I had. I drove across country, and literally when I remember when I was driving into Los Angeles for the first time, oh my gosh, 4 lanes on each, like lanes going one direction and 4 lanes going the other direction on the 101 freeway. Like, I was used to country roads. I was hanging on to that steering wheel so darn tight my knuckles were white. I was just like, oh my goodness. So I had found an apartment, drove in, got settled into my apartment, found myself in there with literally like sleeping on my air mattress, and I think my TV was stacked on boxes that I had moved stuff in. That was my TV stand. And sitting here in this little apartment in Hollywood and just being like, oh, okay, now what? Now what am I going to do? Well, I guess I need to get a job. So I had experience in waitressing, so I was looking for waitressing jobs, which, good grief, I don't know if you guys have ever heard. This was a joke in my Hollywood circles. Once an actor, always a waiter.
Right. I was going to say, this is like
right?
the standard.
It takes a second to sink in. We're all waiting tables, so it was as hard to get a good table waiting gig as it was to get an acting job in that place. I'm searching and scrambling for a job, calling home, asking for money. My parents were sending me a little bit of money. They took good care of me at that time. They take good care of me now. Helping me, just make sure that I could pay my rent and eat the Chinese noodles, right? The dollar noodles around the corner. And I ended up working at the Gap. I finally get this job at the Gap, and right off Rodeo Drive, actually, in Beverly Hills. And so I started working at the Gap, and I'm folding khakis for 8 hours a day. And as I'm standing there folding khakis, I'm like, this is not the adventure that I was necessarily looking for either. I'm waiting for the real magic to kick in. And within about a month or so of being there, the magic started to happen. I don't know if you guys have read the book The Alchemist, but one of the great messages that I took away from that book is really the idea of beginner's luck and how the universe really conspires for you in the beginning. And sometimes you might find that things are a lot easier in the beginning, and it's like, wow, that was easy. And then the more you pursue something and get into it, it becomes more difficult, and we have more issues and things that come up that we have to work through. But we've given ourselves that first boost of inspiration and the boost of success. Like, we feel that, so we have that map, that vibrational map, right, within inside of us after we have that experience. And that was definitely mine. I got my first gig in a movie, and it was a pretty good snag of a role I got. I got the lead role in a horror film, cult classic, The Puppet Master, which was a whole series. I don't even know how many. I was in number 6. I think they've made many more since then. And I was really excited. And I remember pretty much called everybody I knew, letting people know, I got this job in the movie. And was very excited, nervous but excited. And went to my first day at set, came home that night, wasn't really ready to admit to myself that it wasn't everything that I had thought that it would be. I thought, it's like, when you go into a new job and you're nervous, right? When you go into the job and you're like, okay, well, I just have to get to know people and I have to get kind of comfortable in in this new place. And I thought, well, I'm going to feel better tomorrow once I come back. I'm going to feel more comfortable knowing people. I didn't feel better the next day coming back. I was still just like, really? This is acting? Like, this is what it gets boring, y'all. There's so much waiting around. And I was just like, I don't know. But I was completely not ready to admit at that point that I had packed up, left my friends, left my family, moved across the country to pursue this career that wasn't really everything that I thought it was. And I thought, you're just not giving it enough of a chance, Emily. Well, intuitively, now looking back, I recognize that it was a clue for me along the way. No, I wasn't ready at that point in time to say that this isn't all that I wanted it to be. But now that I look back, and you guys, I'm sure that many of you have that experience. Like, once you stop and you take a look back, you turn around and see where you've come, you take some inventory, you start to recognize, oh, yeah, there were little clues along the way. There were like signposts along the way that were guiding me the whole time. And when I eventually got to studying the Akashic Records, I realized, oh my gosh, it was just like someone lifted the veil off, and I could see how everything had lined up perfectly to bring me right where I was and right where I needed to be, and I could see all the signposts so much more clearly. But this was before I had actually really taken that time to dig in and really excavate myself, get to know my soul, really awaken these psychic abilities and senses inside of me. I'd always had a hunch when I was a kid that I was psychic because I think I wanted to be, so I had experimented with telling myself that I was psychic. And I had some interesting experiences with different beings. There was one particular experience when I was a little girl. I remember, you know how you sleep in your bed and it's like if all of your hands and your feet are all tucked in, you're good. It's like the boogeyman's not going to get you. But you're hanging out, even like a little bit, like a toe. You got to pull that back in. Yeah.
I thought I was the only one that thought that. I do that today.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was me too. And I remember just being on the brink of falling one night, and my hand fell out. This was about 4 or 5 years old. My hand fell out of my covers and fell over the side of my bed. And I remember so distinctly the energy of this another hand, such a gentle, amazing, that presence that you talk about feeling, came up and grabbed a hold of my hand and held my hand there on the bed. And as it began to wake me up, because I was drifting off to sleep, as it brought my consciousness back into my body, then it scared me, and I pulled my hand back in really fast. But I'll never forget that moment of having that experience. And again, I didn't think a lot about it. It wasn't even really a flashbulb memory that I thought about a whole lot until after I learned how to read the Akashic Records, and I realized, that was a big moment. That was, and as I looked back over that experience, I came to understand that was Archangel Raphael coming in that point, his being the Archangel of healing, and really just holding that space for me to step into what I'm doing now. And didn't recognize that until after I had gone through the process of actually awakening and opening my senses. But back to Hollywood, back to those days of slinging hash and going to auditions and getting jobs here and there, various commercials and movies. I had decided that I wanted to study acting. I hadn't really ever had the opportunity to learn it like a craft. So I became one of those artsy-fartsy ones that are you're so into your craft, right? Literally you get brainwashed by learning the craft. But what I recognize again, now that I've taken the time and I'm connected with the Akashic Records like I am looking back, I recognize that time in Hollywood was a complete preparation for what it is that I'm doing now in so many ways. So I would go to acting class, and the whole point of class is getting all of the feelings that are all of the areas where we don't allow ourselves to feel our real feelings, right? And I had some of those. I had to shut down some major feelings to get from small town Missouri to Hollywood. While I tell it like it's an interesting and exciting story, and it was, there was a part of me that had to shut down any amount of fear that I had. There was a part of me that had to shut down any amount of feeling sad that I was leaving my family and my friends. And I definitely had to shut down any kind of guilt that would say, oh, well, that's really a bad thing you're doing to your parents. You're leaving your parents, which I'm a mom now. So it's from that mom perspective, oh my gosh, when my kids leave, and if they leave the state that I'm in, holy cow, I can't even imagine. But I had to shut that down. I couldn't really consider those things to go out on my journey. And I recognized that I was pretty emotionally closed up. I recognized that when I'm sitting in Titanic and everyone around me is crying as Jack is sinking and Rose is blowing the whistle, everyone's boo-hooing, and I'm just sitting there totally stone-faced, just totally stone-faced. And I'm like, I think I might be a little blocked up here. So dug into really releasing those emotions. And, so many times in our own psychic journey, there are emotional blocks, areas where we've shut ourselves down and not allowed ourselves to really be so open and vulnerable. And that's an important process. As we're accessing these higher realms of consciousness, it's important that we're open. And it's important that we've released a lot of areas where we feel very dense. And that was part of my process of releasing that. Also, channeling. So being a character, being an actress, is 100% like channeling. In order to be a good actress, you have to show up, you have to step out of the way, and you have to allow that character to really come through you. You learn to use your body as a vessel for those feelings and those emotions. But you're really bringing through a character that is not you. And I realized
wondered about that.
Yeah, right? That was really preparing me for being able to set Emily aside and bring through channeling information from the Akashic Records. Now, when I channel in information, it's in the reading and healing sessions, when people are asking the questions and receiving the answers from the space of the Akashic Records. I'm actually channeling from the Akashic Records in that moment. I do some channeling of other light beings, I did a channeling of Archangel Raphael before, but generally when I channel, it's not. I have a friend, Amanda Marie, who is a master channel, and she channels like Lord Buddha and Master Kathumi, and she channeled Dr. Wayne Dyer. While I have that ability as well, when I'm channeling, I'm bringing through information from the Akashic Records. And you guys out there, one way to start recognizing if you're channeling higher vibrational consciousness, do you tend to be really good at just giving advice to people? You know, do you find that when that people come to you and talk to you, and when you talk back with them, you just happen to know the right things to say? That's a sign that you are a spiritual channeler and a healer, and you're bringing in knowledge for them from higher realms of consciousness. So one little key that you can keep in mind if you notice that about yourself, that you have the gift and the ability to channel. So acting and learning this craft of, getting out of my own way and allowing information to flow in or feelings to flow in right in that moment was a huge part of my process. I also recognize that. Yeah, go ahead. Well,
I just want to pause for a moment and talk about channeling, because this is an area that some of the listeners may not be familiar with, or the term has sometimes it has a negative connotation because of Hollywood movies and things where they say, you brought forth an entity or an energy that was demonic or whatever. And so I find that people hesitate to then say they say, well, I don't want to open myself up to anything. What is this channeling you're talking about? And as you're talking about acting, I thought, that is really interesting, because when you have allowed yourself to be someone else to the point where you are crying the tears that they would cry in that, I mean, crying seems to me like the hardest thing to do in acting sense. Because when you see that actor eyes just well up in that poignant moment that makes us all pull out our tissue, you really are that mother who lost their child, that person who experienced a tragedy as you envision it. So it seems like that's almost like even you're using your third eye to imagine what would life have been like to be this person. And that's then where you tap into that spiritual connection to allow the tears to come, or the rage or the anger or whatever. So channeling, at the time that you're doing the acting lessons, you weren't necessarily thinking of it as channeling. You were thinking of it as, I'm learning how to be a good actor.
Yeah, I was learning how to just be present with the emotion that was coming through from that character. And it's an absolutely valid point, Joelle, that you talk about people freak out a little bit when you talk about channeling. Like, no one wants to channel those dark spirits that come through in the Ouija board, right? That freaks us out. We get scared. And you see the movies about people getting possessed. And so there are a lot of different insights about that. Some people say, oh yeah, totally true, definitely happens. You got to be careful of where you're tuning in. I think that we're honestly channeling in every single moment. If you are at a lower vibrational state and you're feeling down and depressed, you become susceptible to lower vibrational energies attaching themselves to you. I do think that is a true thing. That can siphon your energy. Now, does it necessarily mean that you're possessed? No, I don't think that it means that you're possessed. But there are attachments that can make their way to us when we have a lower vibration. So there is some truth, and there are some, and we've all lived so many lives before that we've had experiences where either these kind of things aren't accepted, or there has been channeling of dark forces or dark energy, or we've experienced just being connected with like just such low, depressed, angry vibrations that kind of take over us sometimes, that we've all had varying forms of a bad channeling experience, right? Whether we recognize that it's actually channeling or not. It's one really important reason why managing our internal energy and keeping our vibration at a high, happy, joyful state is a really important thing. Because whether you recognize yourself as a channel or not, you're doing it. You're tuning in and allowing your energy state to be subject to other matching energies at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is just energy, and it's all just a vibrational match of energy. Another thing that I want to share about channeling is your intention has so much to do with it. And your intention and your imagination are really the key components. So for channeling, and when we obviously want to channel good, high vibrational beings or entities or energy, right? So it's important that we keep our vibration high. It's also important that we set an intention to only channel information of the light, right? So right now, our universe, we're spinning, we're moving through, like the galaxy is moving through the universe, and it's just like all this big spinning and constantly expanding space. As we move through the part of the galaxy that we're moving through right now, we are subject to massive amounts of light, all of this photonic light. So I hear many spiritual speakers talking about, in this state that we're in right now, in the present part of where we're flying through the universe, there's so much light energy that we don't have to protect ourselves like we used to. Like this light we are aligning to the galactic center. There are photons of light, and light, similar to sound waves, so sound is an energy that stores and transfers knowledge. Light is also a frequency that stores and transfers knowledge. We are naturally in a part of the universe right now where there's so much light that there are some spiritual speakers, like I said, who said that you don't have to protect yourself. Now, I find that my method of tuning into the Akashic Records is my method of making sure that I'm tuning in to only the highest vibrational energy that is available. So I can speak to my own personal process while I observe, making sure that I'm using that intention to tune in to only the high vibrational energies. I'm not consciously doing it to protect myself, so to speak. I'm doing it to get a strong
alignment.
Alignment of energy, so that the energy flows very powerfully. But it does have an aspect of protecting me when I'm in that space, only allowing the highest vibrational energy to come in. But I understand that. I completely understand, and especially if you had any kind of an upbringing like mine, like that Southern Baptist upbringing, I can tell you that channeling and playing with these kinds of energies, it takes a really open and understanding person, if you've grown up in that community, to get there, to stretch to that space, because there is a lot of suppression of these kinds of energies in traditional religion. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for clarifying, because, I wanted to pause for a moment about that, because it is something that I get a lot of, that shedding belief systems and emerging into a new understanding of something, and everyday relatability, in terms of you're already doing it, you just don't realize it.
We just don't necessarily realize it. Well, I got to the point with my acting career that I had a reasonable amount. Obviously, I'm not an A-list movie star, and in my mind, that's what I was moving out to California to be. So I had expectations to resolve with myself. But I had a reasonable amount of success doing this. So I was constantly chasing. It didn't matter how much success that I had, Joelle. I was constantly chasing more, constantly wanting more. Needed whatever the next gig was going to be. And there's so much rejection involved. I had gotten under a pile of being really frustrated and negative and depressed, and my husband would tell me, you're just not a happy person. And I wanted to be happy. It pissed me off when he told me I wasn't a happy person. But it's true, I wasn't. And I was trying to act happier than I actually was. And I remember getting to my moment of just emotional frustration and breakdown, and I was on antidepressants for a bit because I just needed to feel better. I was just down, couldn't find happiness in my life. And I got into the point, and it was actually right outside of Joshua Tree, which Joshua Tree is a very, very spiritual zone, good place to be in, good place to catch me when I fell. Just had that dark night of the soul energy where I was just angry and crying and that breakdown, screaming, just pounding my fists, right? I liken it to like a volcano, that all of this energy has been building up inside and it like erupted. It needed to come out. It was my eruption phase. And after that little vacation to Joshua Tree, after I got back, I decided, and I had been listening to energy speakers, and from this point in my life, one of my friends brought me a book when I was in acting by Florence Scovel Shinn, called The Game of Life and How to Play It. And it was basically the law of attraction. It was all about how to create what it is you wanted. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be good for my acting career. I'm a great acting job. And then I started to learn more about manifesting, and I was trying to manifest acting jobs. And I got pretty good at it. I had some beginner's luck, and then it kind of began. I'm like, then more issues started to come up, and I'm like, just getting frustrated. But the energy work that I had been subject to really stuck with me. And I had always been, like, as much as I didn't love part of my growing up, I did love being in that presence of spirit, being connected to source energy. So I began to find that while I had rejected traditional religion and I had run off to Hollywood to seek my fame and fortune, that spiritual aspect of me was coming back to life when I was reading these spiritual texts. And there was a particular gentleman who would come into the restaurant that I worked all the time, and he was a Qigong master. And he wanted to move into teaching, so he offered everybody there who wanted to come join him and learn Qigong. And my husband and I were the only ones who showed up. So he literally taught us, just him and my husband and I, Qigong for months. And I realized later that was part of my waking up process too. And I began listening to energy speakers and energy healers, much like programs like this. I would listen to their story. I would listen to whatever modality that they worked in, and I would do the meditations with them, and I just got so much out of it. But part of me heard that voice, felt that instinct that said, I can do this too. And after my breakdown at Joshua Tree, I decided, you know what? I'm going to explore that. There's somebody out there who can teach me how to do this, right? Who can teach me something. I didn't know I was looking for the Akashic Records, Joelle. The only thing that I knew, and nothing against Reiki, but for me, I knew that it wasn't Reiki. I was like, I don't know what it is that I want to study. I just know it's not Reiki. And I think Reiki is phenomenal. One of my students in learning to read the Akashic Records, because I teach others now how to read the records, is a Reiki master. And I had a kink in my neck one time, and she totally me right up. So let me just very much clarify. Reiki is phenomenal. I'm a big fan of Reiki. It just wasn't going to be my path. So I had picked up a Conscious Life magazine when I was in LA, and flipping through it, looking in the back for like different courses that could possibly certify me in something. And I see the Akashic Records, and I'm like, I remember the Akashic Records. My mom had gifted me maybe 10 years prior to this moment, so maybe in my maybe late 20s, an Akashic Records session. And, of course, so I started to explore. At that point, when I went into the session, I was like, oh, what are the Akashic Records? So I knew a little bit about what the Akashic Records were. And the Akashic Records, for those of you guys who are new to this particular modality, the Akashic Records are the realm of space-time where all information has been programmed. Okay, it's like the gigantic cosmic library of information. Every bit of our past, our present, and our future is stored in this gigantic matrix of information. The future, of course, is stored in infinite possibility, meaning there's always wiggle room based on whatever future we choose to create, because we have that ability to create here on this planet. We can tune into to different futures. Not only do people have Akashic Records, but your animals have Akashic Records. Your house has an Akashic Record. Groups have an Akashic Record. So let's say, Americans in general would have an Akashic Record together. The VIberarian show, the collective of all of what you're creating. So you get the idea. Everything's got the record. Yeah. And, of course, it's very similar to the Internet, right? The Internet is the collection of all the cosmic information that we have so far on this planet. Of course, it's too much information to just sit down and, I have access to all of this information. It doesn't exactly work like that. We don't get it all laid out in front of us at once. It's the same as we use the Internet. So how do we use the Internet? We ask questions. We plug in whatever it is that we're looking for into Google. How many of you guys have been asking yourself internal questions your whole life? How many of you guys have been talking to yourself? You ask a question, you get an answer for it. We're using the Akashic records on a day-to-day basis, whether we realize that or not either. It's completely based on the questions that we ask, depends on the type of information that we get back. And once we learn to intentionally plug our energy in to this high vibrating source of energy, then it's not something that just happens like in one of those moments where you're like, oh, I had a very spiritual epiphany moment. Like I felt the energy come in at that moment. Yes, we do tend to experience those moments of, whoa, what just, like that was otherworldly. Like we recognized there was a higher consciousness that we were tuning into, but we don't necessarily know how to get back there. So I learned the process of accessing the Akashic records at will, being able to center and calm my energy, to tune into that space, and then I learned how to navigate in that realm. And we navigate by asking questions. So the Akashic records bring answers to every single question that we ask. Now, the answers aren't the same as how we receive answers here on Earth. We are experiencing this planet through a very 3D experience, right? It's a very polar. There's north and south pole that hold the whole planet in place. And as above, so below, the macrocosm and the microcosm. Of course, we experience those idea of poles or opposites in our lives. We experience, we know great joy only once we've known great sadness. It's how we're experiencing things here on the planet. So the Akashic records provide information from a little different energetic standpoint, actually a lot different energetic standpoint. They provide information from a level of unconditional love and zero judgment. So we're receiving information from this incredible space of seeing ourselves the way God sees us. And the records are known by other names in the Akashic record. They're known as the Mind of God. They're known as the Hall of Records. They're known as the Book of Life. When I grew up, it was your name gets, that's why I was witnessing to all my friends, because I wanted to get their name in the Book of Life, right? So that they could get into heaven. Right. That's how we learned was that, when you accept Jesus as your Savior, then your name gets written in the Book of Life, and then that means you get to come to heaven. The Book of Life is actually, there's much more, it's a much expanded version of that. Yes, each one of us have an entry in this Book of Life, but every single bit of our past, present, and future exists in there as well. So by learning to tap into that space can bring forward very high levels of wisdom, guidance, and clarity in our lives, and also a healing energy. When I tune into the records and I'm bringing through, like I'm using my body think of it like as a lightning rod, where I'm bringing the energy in, I'm putting you in touch with that energy. I feel comfortable using the word healer. I know there are some energy workers and light workers who don't necessarily feel comfortable using that word. They say, I'm not doing the healing, I'm just conducting the energy. That's 100% true. I'm just conducting the energy. But if you choose to show up and receive that healing energy, then there's massive healing that can come through just from being in the presence of your own Akashic records. So I don't really have a problem with the semantics of that word. But I do want to clarify that I'm not actually doing any healing. I'm just tuning into the energy and making myself a channel for it so that you can receive that energy. So I found a lady who was going to certify me in the Akashic records. I moved through the process in 3 months from start to finish. I have a certification to be a practitioner in the space of the records. Then I hold an advanced certification for past life clearing and ancestral clearing. And then I hold a second advanced certification in using the Akashic records for healing. So once I learned that process, I began to create my own healing practice with it. I began to create a business, which in the past 2 years, now this was in 2015 that I became a certified practitioner. And what is it now, 2017? Yeah, we're about halfway through 2017 here. And the amount of content and wisdom that I've been able to create and put in a form here on the planet to share with people, it blows even my mind. Right now I write for the Huffington Post, so I'm lucky enough to share my insights on a very worldwide platform. And I really enjoy writing. As much as I was an actress, and loved being in Hollywood writing. I've been writing since I was a little girl, like storytelling. I realized how connected those two things are, the writing and the storytelling and the acting. But I really have always loved to be a writer. And my history in Hollywood and being on camera and getting really comfortable just being in that public eye, huge for me. I now have 2 internet shows. I have one show that I do on Periscope every week called Akashic Answers with Emily, and I do that with Love and Action TV. And I have my own show, which you were a guest on my live interview show on Facebook called Lightworkers Connect, where I similarly bring forward other light workers to share modalities and bring insight for people, bring more wisdom to the forefront. And I've been able to create the Akashic Academy, which is an amazing community where my partner, Nick Pereira, and Nick studies the ancient Vedic text. He's a student of Bhakti Yoga. And together, he and I are bringing together spiritual modalities from across the world, really bringing together to unify our search for God, our search for Christ consciousness, the waking up process. So when I use the term like the search for Christ consciousness is becoming psychic. That is the waking up of all of that dormant DNA. Jesus was a psychic fella, was he not? He was healing people. He was raising people from the dead, and he was multiplying the fish, right? And he was walking on water.
Was connected,
and he said,
connected to God's self all the time, constantly. And he kept telling them, I am connected to the Father. I am the Father. And so that embodiment of Christ consciousness is something that I'm constantly talking about, you know.
Yeah.
That's so key to understanding the embodiment as something that is actually present and internal rather than external and unattainable, you know.
Preach it, Joelle, right? Yes. And that's what happens when we begin to put ourselves in alignment with that energy. There's a waking up of all of these psychic senses, of the clairvoyance, which is the clear inner vision, the clairaudience, which is clear hearing, clairsentience, clear feeling, claircognizance, clear knowing. I just want to break down quickly some things that you guys, if these things are happening to you, this is an indication that you're waking up, that you're coming more into alignment with that source energy. You know, if you get tingles, those truth-indicating tingles when someone speaks the truth, or you feel that you come in contact with a bit of truth, that's an indication that you're waking up and that your subtle energy body is waking up and feeling the energy shift. If you get a hunch that somebody's going to text you or call you, and then they do, that is your telepathy waking up. Telepathy is a very real thing that we're sending and receiving. We're sending and receiving messages constantly to each other. If you notice ringing in your ears, many times that ringing in your ears is a sign of waking up of your clairaudience, of hearing clear messages. If you hear music or particular song lyrics in your head, and you're like, oh, that's just what I needed to hear right now, or you turn the radio on and you hear something that's very moving to you, just what you needed to hear, that's a sign that you're receiving messages through clairaudience. Even if you're hearing them come through the radio, you're receiving messages. If you see things like shadows and flashes out of the corner of your eye, your clairvoyance is picking up. You're able to see. So in our peripheral vision, our eyes, since they're the shape that they are, since we have convex and concave areas of our eyes because they're a sphere, the light and the frequency is bent differently in our peripheral than it is in the front, where we see straight out of the front of our eyes. So in that bending of the light and of the energy, we can actually pick up different frequencies than we can pick up right in front of us. And so if you start to see flashes or shadows out of the corner of your eye, don't freak out. What happens, we see them and then we turn our head really fast, right? And we're like, oh, they ran away. No, what really happened was we turned our head and we turned our field of vision, so we're not seeing it anymore. But we tend to, just like you talked about channeling and putting those negative connotations or scary connotations on the idea of channeling, when you can see those flashes and those things out of the corner of your eye, we can tend to label that as scary too. I teach people and encourage people to don't think it's so scary. Actually what you can do, a really cool exercise that you can do to start strengthening your peripheral vision is just, everybody, let's do this together. Hold your hands out in front of you, directly out in front of you. Okay? And then moving your hands to the side, spreading them out, you're testing basically where that line is between where you can see your hands and where you can't see your hands anymore. So you want to find that line right where the peripheral is, okay? And then keeping your eyes focused moving forward, just wiggle your fingers, putting your arms up and down right along that line where they tend to disappear, and just allow yourself to see them out of the peripheral. This will start strengthening those peripheral muscles. Okay? Good way to start. Here's another. Good. All right, here's another exercise that we can do, guys. We're going to just take 10 seconds to becoming more clairvoyant. Everybody close your eyes. I want you to see a giant bubble letter purple number 3 in your mind, seeing it nice and big there in your mind, putting all of your consciousness on that gigantic, big, poofy bubble letter number 3, seeing it there, holding your consciousness on it, holding all your attention on that giant 3, and then now just allowing it to gently fade away. That's a great way that you can start building your clairvoyance, is by imagining these things and holding your consciousness on it inside of your mind. So congratulations. You guys just did 2 things to boost your psychic abilities here with me today.
Yay.
And in addition to creating the Akashic Academy, where there are opportunities to learn to do, I teach an intuitive development class inside the Academy where we learn exercises like this, or we talk about different aspects of waking up our intuition. We talk about different aspects that we can learn to heal ourselves, because we all have these abilities to tune in, to wake up, to become healers, not only healers of ourselves, but healers of others as well. And my purpose and passion right now is really to inspire other people to become light workers. Doesn't mean that you have to become a reader, or you have to set up shop like I've set up shop and become, do online shows and write and talk all about your healing experiences. And it doesn't mean that. You can be a light worker in whatever job, career, passion calls you. All right, it's important that we love what it is that our work is, but loving our work and bringing a consciousness, bringing a light to how we go about doing our work, that is being a light worker. And as we begin to step more and more into alignment with that, the waking up of those psychic senses really starts to have a powerful impact on our life. And guiding people through that process, whatever it looks like for them, is really what my mission is here on the planet. And of course, there are light workers that come into my inner circle who want to learn specifically the Akashic Records, which again, that is a learnable skill. I'm about to do some readings for you guys here using the Akashic Records and opening your Akashic Records, and I'll show you guys how I do that. But this is a skill that I learned and that people can learn how to do. So when light workers want to expand their current healing modality, or they want the Akashic Records to be their number 1 healing modality, they come to me and they move through my course, Learning to Read the Akashic Records, which is a 15-week course. It's an online course, so you don't have to live in Southern California where I am to do that. But I do offer certifications for people who want to learn how to do this. And again, it's a skill that every single person divinely wired into your DNA, everybody, is the ability to access the Akashic Records. And holy cow, I just looked up, and outside there is the biggest rainbow. I'm sitting out in my garden right now, and as I'm telling you that you all have the ability to access the Akashic Records, there is a huge rainbow right here. I'm going to just snap a picture of that guy right there.
That is so beautiful. I love when the confirmation comes in.
Right. Cool. So I'd like to move in and start doing some readings for anybody here who would like a reading tonight, Joelle. Yes, go ahead.
Let me ask a real quick question first. You said that, when you're asking yourself a question, that you are accessing your guidance and Akashic knowledge in that moment. So for the typical person who says, let's take a real world scenario. They've taken a job somewhere, or they've entered in a relationship or something, and they find that they're ultimately unhappy, and they're sitting there in their little mulling space, and they say, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Okay, that's the question. Why did I do that? A lot of times then our logical framework kicks in and it says, well, you were an idiot when you did that, or you were not thinking with your right mind, girl, or something like that. But when you look deeper, sometimes the answer is from a previous experience. Now, for some people, they don't have a framework that connects to say that we've been here before, that there's a continuity of soul self. So for a person who lives in a reality that does not believe in reincarnation, then does the answer then just lie in, okay, well, you did that because you needed to learn the lesson, or you did that, you survived it?
That's a great question. So I want to go back to what you talked about, about the person being in the mulling over state, right? So if you are mulling anything over and you're in that, like you're in that processing zone, that is a certain energetic frequency. The answers that we get always are a vibrational match to whatever frequency we're asking them in. So when we learn to access the records, before we learn to access it, we're just asking questions and we're receiving answers. It's just, and we label it as our mulling over process, or I'm processing this, or, you know, I'm trying, When we learn to access the records, it requires a couple things from us to do this on a conscious basis and to really get the highest level of information possible. So that's kind of a coding there of the Akashic records. Unless you consciously are accessing the records from a space of being willing to take personal responsibility for whatever it is, like you said, you're there to learn, whatever the lesson is. And it's important that you come from a space of unconditional love for yourself. So if you're ticked off at yourself for making this choice, or you're at a space where you're like depressed or low, or you're holding yourself like negatively accountable for it, it's going to affect the level of information that you're going to get, because the information always matches the vibration from which we ask. That's why when we go through the training of learning to read the Akashic records and we learn how to tap in at will, it's important that we go through the process of connecting our energy to the highest realms possible, which is the process that I do before, the little meditation I do before I begin. And it's the questions that we ask are really important. So asking things like, what is the lesson that I need to learn in this situation so that I can stop repeating this lesson and move on? See, that shows that you love yourself, that you are willing to take responsibility for what it is that you've created, but you acknowledge that you want something higher and better for your life. That's loving yourself, right? So when you ask that question, that becomes a very advanced, a very learned question. Like, we have to recognize that about the process and learn to frame the question from that standpoint. Otherwise, you're going to get an answer. No matter, it doesn't matter if you believe in reincarnation or if you believe in the Akashic records or how you put language to that. You ask a question, you're going to get an answer. It's the nature of our brain. As soon as your brain is posed a question, it goes seeking an answer. One small trick that you guys can do for yourself in terms of processing your life is learn to ask questions in a positive framework. So what is it that I can do to shift this situation? Let's say that you're having financial issues and financial difficulties. Instead of asking, why am I always in this mess? So your brain's going to go find the answers why you're always in this mess. I'm not saying that there's not enlightening information that comes out of that, but learn to reframe the question to, what can I do to shift this? Right? If you find yourself in a really low state and you're depressed on a day, to ask the question, what can I do to feel better right now? And you're automatically putting your brain into brain mode. Brain's mode is to go solve the problem. You're giving your brain the directive to go find solutions to help you feel better. So learning to reframe how you talk to yourself and how you ask yourself questions, even, like I said, without going into the full process of learning how to access the Akashic records, simply take that tweak in terms of how you talk and how you ask questions to yourself, and you'll find a massive difference in the answers that you get.
Very good.
Did that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, that was very good, because, words matter, and we do so much judgment of ourselves in just our positioning, or we place ourselves in kind of a victim almost statement. Why did this happen to me? Kind of negativity, and it really is so tricky that thoughts and words do matter so much, and just that shift of moving into neutrality in your question and acceptance in your question, that's huge. You know, that I have to catch myself now, and as I start to ask my higher self questions, I'm going to see where I'm actually limiting the energy that I would receive the response back in. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yay, good. So
we
have some people out there who want questions. So let me just give you a couple quick guidelines. Okay. Yes or no questions this is not the best space for yes or no questions. Okay. Ask yes or no questions to your pendulum. Ask yes or no questions when you do muscle testing. Dig in this space, guys. Ask, how can I better understand the nature of whatever issue it is that you're working on? Or what are ways in my life that I can get more clarity on my soul purpose? Like, use this to really dig in and get those answers that you need to make big changes in your life. Time questions are not the best to ask in the Akashic Records either. Now, if you're dying to ask a time question, I will certainly pose that question to your records, and we will get information. But time is changing so quickly all the time. Time does not exist on this planet. I mean, how we experience it is not what the real nature of time anyway. And our timelines can be moved forward or backward in the future. Time is a pretty unstable entity, right? So asking time frame questions, we don't always get the best answers from that because time is so different in all different realms, right? If you ask a time frames question, the answer quite likely will not look like, when am I going to meet the love of my life, right? It's likely not going to look like, the next 3 to 6 months you're going to meet that person. It's going to look like when you finally learn to love yourself, when you learn to accept yourself as where you are. It's going to look like that. So it's going to happen whenever you accomplish those certain things. So stay away from yes or no questions. Stay away from time-sensitive questions unless you're just dying to ask one. And then if you just feel like you can't get away from it, then that's fine. Go ahead. But like I said, it will likely not look like an increment of time. It will look like a series of steps that you need to take in order to accomplish what it is that you're working to accomplish. You have a list of people there, you said, who would like.
Yeah, we've got some people on hold who've been waiting patiently for this portion of the show.
Wonderful.
So, just to clarify real quick, do you have like an example question that the Akashic opportunity would be suited for?
Yes. So let's just say that you are not satisfied in your current job, okay, and that you want to find another job, but you're not exactly even sure like how to go about any of that, right? So don't worry about framing a question so specifically. Talk to me. You can talk to me about what it is that you're experiencing, and we can formulate the question together. But a question such as, what are the lessons that I still need to understand in the job that I'm in now so I can move on and create something new?
Okay. Okay, awesome. Well, our first caller, and these are really just very mini complimentary readings, and I'm so appreciative that Emily is willing to do this on the show. We do have about, I think, 4 or 5 people in the queue who are waiting to receive readings.
Let's get to all of them. Good.
Move through them. All right. So our first caller who's been waiting is Andrea or Andrea. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Welcome to the Psychic Inside Show.
Hi, it's actually Andrea, but that's okay.
Andrea, welcome. Thank you. So you're on with
Thank
Emily.
You.
Hi, Andrea. Andrea, what's your last name? I use your first, middle, and last because I use your full name to bring up your Akashic Records.
I was adopted, but my name is Andrea Sue Gaylor.
Andrea Sue Gaylor. Okay. Awesome. Okay, Andrea, I'm just going to tune into your records right now. I'm creating a column of light, extending that column of light, running up and down my spine, extending it all the way down into the crystalline core center of Mother Earth, connecting with all of the love and unconditional support, all of the wisdom of the earth plane, bringing that up through my light body, and then taking that column of light, extending all the way up through the atmosphere, through the different layers of space, time, and consciousness, anchoring it into the space of the Akasha, bringing that information down. And now asking to open the records of Andrea Sue Gaylor. All right, Andrea, your records are now open. And go ahead. What's going on with you?
Well, it's funny because you were talking about manifesting things and you get back what you put out. My friend is a perfect example. How come this happens to me? How come my car breaks down? How come I can't find this? And I said, because you keep putting in the universe all that negative crap. You need to stop doing that and be positive and be like, this is what I deserve. This is what I'm going to get. This is what I am. But, stop doing that.
Yeah, yes.
I manifest my own good stuff. I say, you know what, I am going to be this. I deserve this. I was dating a guy who, you know what, and I said, I am worthy of this, so you need to go. And, so I ended up breaking up with him. But, you have to know your worth.
A really key component of what you said in terms of manifesting is that I am, and then filling in the blank. First of all, you're invoking the I am that I am energy, which is phenomenal and powerful energy. That is the great violet flame energy. That is that is a great one right there, the I am that I am. So bringing it right into the present moment, which is allowing yourself to create it now, in the now moment. Anytime we are existing in the past or we're moving into the future, like I will be manifesting my soulmate. Well, then you're going to keep putting it out in the future. If you're putting it out in the future now, then you're going to continue putting it out in the future. What questions do you have right now, Andrea, for your Akashic record?
Well, as a matter of fact, we're talking about my birth mother. I was adopted, and my birth mother is a psychic. So I think I must have at least 3 of those tendencies because I can see things, I can feel things, and sometimes I hear things. So I'm kind of sort of coming to my own. But do you have any sort of, I'm trying to find who my birth father is. I mean, she said she doesn't know, doesn't remember. I don't even know where to look. I don't even know if he's still alive, but it's driving me crazy not to know who he is or where I come from.
Okay. So you do have communication with your birth mother, and she says that she doesn't know who this person is?
Mm-hmm. Yes, she said she doesn't know, doesn't remember. She was 22 at the time. She's like 60-something now, or 70-something. Because I'm 50.
Okay. So I haven't seen this a whole lot on the planet, but I've seen it every now and then, and I will tell you that there is this phenomena that like I said, I've come into contact with this before, where your father, your biological father, is not actually like a human being, like we would consider like we're just like simple mortal human beings. He has definitely like a higher calling. I've run onto a particular fella who has strong father ties with Archangel Michael. And I'll be honest, I don't know exactly how all of that works when, if obviously there is a relationship that's happening between your mom and the father figure that is causing the biological reaction that we recognize as pregnancy and moving into childbirth. And I'm not 100% sure how that process happens if these entities the father's body allows that essence of Archangel Michael to come in and to help populate the planet. But you definitely have angelic roots in terms of your ancestry. And it might be very possible that you don't find him, and that you don't find him in the traditional way of like searching and looking and figuring out who this person is. They are recommending that you begin a telepathic communication with your father, as opposed to trying so hard, like scrambling and looking for him. Because what will happen is, again, like you talked about when you were teaching your friend about manifesting, if you're looking and it's driving you crazy and you're looking, you're going to keep creating more driving yourself crazy and looking kind of experiences. Mm-hmm. Instead, they want you to work on practicing telepathic communication with your father. So when we communicate telepathically, the energy is being sent and received through our third eye. And so they're suggesting that you set aside some meditation time. Okay, get at a space where I like to go to my garden, but find a space that you like to go, and go to that space, create some quiet space, and imagine him there in front of you, whether he looks in angel form, whether he's in human form, whatever. Telepathic cord, gold cord between your third eye and his third eye, and just start talking back and forth. This is going to act. Not only are you going to start getting information that you want about him. And your imagination is really key. And information that comes into you via through your imagination, that is information coming from him. Do not tell yourself that you're making it up. That is a way that we block our psychic gifts and abilities. Am I making this up? No, you're sending. We don't actually make things up. We're only sending and receiving signals. And energy follows intention. So if you intend to connect with him, you can trust that the information that you're going to get back is coming from him. And this is not only going to answer some of your questions that you have for him, but it's also going to further ignite your psychic gifts and abilities because you're using them. Because it's like you're working out with them, right? You're using those muscles, so they're building. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I have done that occasionally. I'll just kind of like talk to my guides and angels and ask for some guidance or clearance, or sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But I do manifest other things because I tried out for a TV show. I ask for those signals, those signs, and I get those.
Okay, good. The manifesting small things is the same as manifesting big things. Many times we look at manifesting small things as being easier, but it's really as easy to manifest $1 million as it is to manifest $1.
Of course.
When you untangle all of your issues, I'll be honest, I haven't been able to untangle all of mine yet, and I feel like manifesting $1 million is way harder than manifesting $1, which is probably why I haven't done it yet. But as the theory goes, right? And I'm still learning and growing myself. But as the theory goes, we can manifest anything. One thing isn't harder than the other. It depends on our paradigm of belief around how difficult we think that it is. Andrea, thank you so much for coming on tonight and asking your question.
Thank you.
Can I do a little third eye activation for you before you go?
Sure.
Sure. All right, just going to send, and this is for everybody out there who wants this. I'm going to use Andrea as our template here, but just bringing energy and awareness to that third eye. The third eye is located in between the two hemispheres of your brain, known as the pineal gland. It's what allows us to have communication and intuition, communication with other realms of consciousness. And it's the seat of our intuition, and it's responsible for that telepathic communication. So I'm just doing a little energy work here, moving my hands, creating a vortex of energy in that area for you guys. Everybody, I want you to see indigo energy coming out of that third eye area in all directions, 360 degrees, coming out all directions, good. Deep breath in, and then exhaling. Good job. So that'll give you, Andrea, an extra, it's like a Jamba Juice boost. When you're going in and you're doing this telepathic communication with your dad, we just did a little tuning up there of that third eye energy. So,
thank you.
So you have, so you have strong, clear messages. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next call. Do you have any clearing to do after
I'm just
in between callers?
Yep, just closing down Andrea's records. Yep, good. Bring on the next caller.
All right, so we've got Terry from New York on. Terry, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Excellent. Would you be able to move to a slightly quieter room?
Yes, actually, yeah, I had the radio on. I just turned it off. Oh, this is really good.
Hi, Terry. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
So, same protocol, Terry. Give me please your full name, first, middle, and last.
Oh, my God. So is Terry?
Yes.
Samara. And last name is Haynes, Haynes.
Okay. So, Terry, I'm just going to tune into your records for you. Okay, Terry, your records are now open.
Okay.
So what question do you have today? What question can we bring forward higher levels of wisdom, guidance, and clarity for you in your life?
Okay, it's in regards to a job that I currently have.
Okay.
I just wanted to see, because I'm in the process of looking for something, and I have had a conversation with the coworker that I was looking for a job, but I just don't want to cause, any issues to the management company, or, I don't want to put out a negative, make it seem like it's negative, which is not. And I just wanted to see if you were picking up anything or picking up any energy of that.
They say, yes, I am. And they're calling you out a little Dr. Phil style. Dr. Phil always calls his people out. They're calling you out for being afraid and having a fear motivation for not wanting to rock the boat. And so you're justifying that by saying, well, I don't want to put out any negative vibration. They say your vibration that you put out has to do with whatever's coming from inside of you. So if you are not in a state of a negative vibration, you don't have to worry about putting that vibe out there. If somebody picks up on any negativity, that's their own negativity that they're feeling. All right? If you bring up or trigger any negativity in somebody, it's because it's inside of them and it's coming out. You get to control your vibe from the inside. And if you don't want to be negative, then you're not. Then you stay positive. You stay in a positive, uplifting frame of mind. There's part of you that doesn't know what the next job is or what it looks like, and that can be a scary place. So sometimes, yes, our subconscious mind will create justifications for us that sound quite reasonable, which will make us not continue to move forward looking, but they say keep moving forward looking. Keep looking and ask.
Yes. Okay. I will.
Yes,
I'm doing that starting tomorrow.
Yes, and asking is a way that you show yourself, that you honor yourself in moving into whatever this new position, whatever this new better fit for you is going to be. If you don't ask, you're not going to receive. So asking is a really, really important, dynamic.
Okay, I definitely will do so. Okay.
Okay, they want to give you one more tip. They want to. Okay, they're giving me two colors for you, so that you can bring in some color vibrational energy. They're saying that have something red, and I don't know if you have crystals or if you want to do it with clothes or if you want to do it with particular jewelry. Doesn't really matter. But if you don't want to wear red, put like a red crystal in your pocket. So red and yellow are going to be your power colors. Red is going to help you really feel safe, to express what it is that you want, to feel secure feeling safe and secure in expressing what you want. And the yellow, Terry, is going to help you really stand in your personal power.
Okay.
And yellow is a self-esteem color. And yellow is associated with our solar plexus chakra, which is our inner sun. And they want you to keep that color in mind because you have a lot of joyful, happy energy. Your inner sun, your inner sun radiating, people want to be around that all the time. They want you to recognize that, use that to move into this new position by saying, people in this position that I'm being drawn towards, they want me there in that space. They're craving my energy and standing strong in that. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Yes, it does.
Good. Wonderful. Terry, thank you so much for coming on tonight with us. I appreciate you.
And I appreciate you. So I will go tomorrow and pick up, you said it's a red and yellow crystal I should get, correct?
I was seeing like two separate ones. But sometimes you can find mixture stones. If you find a mixture of one that's red and yellow, perfect. Otherwise, pick up one red and one yellow.
Okay,
whatever you're drawn to. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll get it definitely tomorrow. Thank you. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Have a great night, Terry.
You too. Wow, that's cool.
Thank you, Terry. That was wonderful. Thank you. This is wonderful. Our next caller, I don't have a name yet, but your area code begins with 347, and you're on the line.
Hi, hello.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. My name is Keisha.
Keisha, welcome, Keisha. Keisha, can you give me your full name, your first, middle, and last?
Oh. I'm Keisha Lanise Pride.
Pride, awesome. I use your full name to bring up the vibration of your soul, all incarnations of your soul, past, present, and future. So just tuning in to your records right now, Keisha Lanise Pride. Awesome. All right, Keisha, your records are now open. What question can I answer for you? What area can we bring forward more wisdom, guidance, and clarity for you, my dear?
Okay. So I am feeling like I want to move out of town to preferably Atlanta, Georgia, or either Charlotte, North Carolina. But I'm thinking Atlanta because I used to live in Atlanta.
Okay.
And I did my own cards today, and I asked really great questions, and they answered me. The thing is, I don't have any money. I don't have a job or money, say, to move to Atlanta. But I manifested money to move to Atlanta years ago.
Okay. And so you want to do that again?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Manifesting something when we need it can be tricky because anytime we're in need of something, we're already vibrationally in lack. And so trying to manifest from a vibrational state of lack is one of the hardest things to do on the planet. Practically impossible. All right? So the first thing we want to do is we want to shift the perspective around any area of lack, any area where you're observing lack in your life. So every one really amazing way that you can tune in to the energy of abundance is being in nature and considering the idea of like an apple. Okay, and then so inside of one apple, there are how many seeds? Maybe between 10 and 20 seeds inside of one apple. Then we plant one of those seeds and you get an apple tree that's going to produce hundreds of apples. It's going to have tens of thousands of more seeds. And so then you think of all of the apples that can be produced from those seeds, from that one apple that you started with after you grew an apple tree. It's like it gets exponential fast. So they're saying use that idea of the apple really to tune you into a vibrational frequency of how quickly things can expand and how much abundance there is within one small, tiny seed. Another way that you can really start tuning into abundance is start seeing it everywhere and start blessing it everywhere. Okay, I read this really profound essay once called The Aloha. It was so profound I forgot the name of it. Okay, it was called The Aloha Spirit. Thank you very much, Spirit. It was called The Aloha Spirit. And this gentleman who wrote this essay talks about the fastest way you can get into vibrational frequency with things is start noticing it and blessing it everywhere around you. So everywhere where you see abundance, Keisha, I want you to bless that abundance, blessing it. Whether it's abundance in nature, whether it's, your wealthy friends, people with money around you, anywhere where you see the abundance showing up for you, showing up in your world, bless it and recognize that if it's showing up in your vision, that it's in your space. Okay? They want you to spend some time doing that before you really try, okay, I'm going to start manifesting the money now. Because they're showing me that you're in a vibrational frequency of lack. And so that's the first thing to address before you really start manifesting the money, is to get into that vibrationally neutral space where you're not observing lack everywhere. So instead, you're gonna counteract that by observing abundance everywhere and then blessing it when you see it. Blessing abundance when you see it anywhere. Like blades of grass. If you see tens of thousands of blades of grass as you're walking down the street in a small patch, a small area, recognize that look at each one of those as being its own abundant resource in your life.
Okay. I didn't really feel I was coming from lack. I just know I don't have the amount of money, say, I had before to move down here. But, I mean, technically I can work and save up the money, but I really kind of want to go now. I don't really want to stay here for another year.
So then, if you're not resonating with being in that vibrational frequency of lack, then I invite yourself. Sometimes it's so deeply subconscious. Because let me tell you, Keisha, if you were truly not observing or being in a state of lack, you would have the money right now to go. It would be present in your reality. So anytime something is not present in our reality, it means that there's a subconscious belief that's preventing us from bringing that into our reality.
Okay, I get it. No, I get that.
Yeah, sometimes they can be really deep and really subconscious. I'll give you an example. I did that before in my business, and I didn't realize I was doing it. When I created my course for learning to read the Akashic Records, I did not put guidelines on you move through the course in 3 months. It's a 15-week course. Every week, you're responsible for doing a new lesson. I was too scared to tell people that because I didn't realize at the moment. I thought that I was giving people flexibility to move through the program as they had the time to move through it, right? What I was really doing, because I was new and because, we were constantly learning, not necessarily a fault. I just hadn't gotten to that lesson yet, right? I'm not going to fault myself for not learning that lesson yet. This is a deep lesson. I recognized that I was actually tuning into a frequency of lack and scarcity by being afraid that somebody would not want to be held accountable by me. And I thought that I would lose students. I thought if I don't make this really easy for students, people are not going to sign up. So I'm going to try to make it really easy for students, and this is going to be how I word it. They can move through it as they move through it. Well, I began to recognize that I had students who were getting very stagnant, getting very stuck. They weren't progressing through the work. And I'm a mom. One thing that I've learned about my momming is that anytime my kids are coming up with an issue or they're fighting or whatever's going on, they're pretty much just modeling my behavior back to me, right? So I have learned to take ultimate responsibility with my students too. Like if there's something that's not working in my classroom, that's something that I need to address. It's my responsibility. It's being modeled back to me or shown to me so that I can make adjustments. So, which makes me growl sometimes because I'm like, oh, me again? But yeah, I have to figure out what adjustments that I need to make. And so I had to make some adjustments, and I started recognizing, you know what? No, people are paying me to be their mentor. This is an energetic exchange that we're entering into. I am not serving those other people unless I show up and hold them accountable. So I'm going to stop observing this lack, this scarcity. I'm going to stop being afraid that I'm going to drive students away, and I'm going to be strong enough to grab my nuts and hold people accountable. And so that's what I did. So that's just to give you an example. It was so deeply subconscious that I didn't recognize it for a long time, that I was actually observing lack. So just allow yourself to allow it to come to the surface so that you can see where you might be very subconsciously observing it. Because you're observing it in some method, some form or fashion. Otherwise, the money would be right there in a big pile for you, and you would start packing right now. You would call U-Haul and call the movers, and it would be on like Donkey Kong.
It is so funny. I saw a bunch of U-Haul trucks yesterday. Like everywhere I looked, it just was like a U-Haul.
Good. Okay. Start blessing those. Those are signs. Those are signs that you are creating the abundance. You are now creating and tuning into the abundance to accomplish this that you want to accomplish.
Oh, hi. Well, are the records? Can the records tell you if I am going to move or not, or?
Well, the future exists in infinite possibility, but you are definitely. So it works like this. We have a vibrational frequency that we're putting out. We move from possibility into probability into this is our reality that we create, the more we give attention to it. So if that's what you want your reality to be, and you are definitely emitting a strong vibration to move to Atlanta, for sure. I easily see this as being something that's moving from your realm of possibility to probability to reality.
Yeah, I know I could do it. It's just that I don't want to wait. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want to save up any money. I just want to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what the issue is. Because of course I can work and save up the money and be, gone in a few months. But I want to leave like in 2 weeks. So that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I get that.
They in terms of like how we talked about asking questions, they want you to ask this question in your own meditation time, and asking why are you feeling this need to move so quickly? Is it an impatience in you, or is there something like ask what is in your highest good?
So ask what is in my highest good.
Yeah, ask what is in your highest good in terms of this timing. And if you're still feeling really, really impatient on getting out of here, ask that too. Say, what is it that I need to learn about my impatience in this moment? Like what acknowledge that you're feeling very impatient and you want what you want now, and ask what is it that I need to learn about this, and see what you come up with. Okay.
Okay, I will. Thank you both. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tisha. I hope you have a great night.
You guys too, but thanks.
Thank you for your contribution. I just really have to tell you, I really appreciate when callers are willing to open up themselves to sharing in the radio space, because there winds up being lessons for all of us. In that, and it's a very vulnerable space to be in, allowing your spiritual realm to be discussed on the air, and I don't take that lightly. So I do thank all of you that are willing to let yourselves be an example for everyone. So
I agree.
I do have
that as well.
I do have one last caller on who had requested a reading, and we'll bring her on before we wrap everything up. I'm so appreciative. Michelle, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Welcome to the Psychic Inside Show.
Hi.
Welcome to the show, Michelle. Can I get your full name, your first, middle, and last?
Sure. It's Michelle Lee Franklin.
Tuning into your records here, Michelle. Okay, Michelle, your records are now open.
Okay.
So what's going on with you in your life?
Well, I've gone through a lot of change, and I was just wondering if you think I'm on the right path. I want to know, like, if I'm on the right spiritual path, if I'm on the right life path, I guess.
Yeah, instantly I see essential oils coming up for you. Does that have anything to do with any transitions that you've made?
No.
Not yet. So I see you here. I'm just going to. They show me very clearly you working with essential oils. I see you having a career that is like a more of a spiritual career. Like there's a spiritual basis. There's a service. That's what I mean. There's a service element to what you do, to helping other people. And in terms of you being absolutely in alignment with what it is that you're here to do, you have a very strong service, a call to serve other people in your blueprint that I'm seeing. Are you doing yoga?
I was.
You were doing yoga. Were you just like practicing yoga or teaching yoga?
No, just practicing, going to classes.
Mm-hmm. That woke up a lot of things inside of you. Why have you stopped doing that?
Just my mom's been sick and it's like hard to get there.
Mhm. They're inviting you to do some yoga at home. Keep doing it. Keep doing the practice. Even if you can't make it to the studio to do the yoga. Are you caring for your mother?
No. I mean, she's in assisted living, but I go there a lot.
Okay. And what are some of the transitions that you've been making? Have you been making like job transitions or relationship transitions or moving transitions or all of the above?
Well, I just broke up with my boyfriend, and I feel like I'm on a good career path, but I have a lot of other interests, and I just don't know if I'm on the right path and exactly what. I know what I'm interested in. I know what I'm good at. But I just
what are
don't
those
know.
things? What are you interested in and what are you good at?
Well, I'm a nurse, so you were right about the helping thing. Mm-hmm. And I love helping people. And then I paint.
Cool.
I do murals, I do pictures, I do all kinds of stuff like that.
Have you looked into essential oils? That might be something that sparks a profound kind of interest for you. They're showing me that so clearly. Healing through the vibrations of the essential oils, and particularly through smells.
Okay.
Smell is an incredibly. Go ahead.
I just don't see myself interested in that whatsoever.
Okay, that's okay. Let me keep digging. Let me talk about smell for a second. So smell is a way that we can instantly bring ourselves back to the present moment. Because what happens when we smell something, for that moment that we're taking it in through our nose and we're enjoying, when we want to smell good smelling things, right? But if it's something disgusting, it's kind of the same. It brings you present, just like front and center with whatever it is that you're experiencing, that sense is experiencing. And it has an ability to bring you, snap you back to the present moment. So many times we spend too much time either thinking about the future or lamenting the past, or we're so in our head about everything that we need to be more in the moment. And maybe that's just what's coming up for you. Maybe that would be a way that you would bring yourself back to the present moment. The idea of staying very present is coming up for you. And I'm realizing that was part of the yoga tie-in too, is that you were able to stay a lot more present when you had the yoga practice consistently happening in your life, which is why you want to bring the yoga back in as well. Right now, they are showing a lot of cerebral activity. So a lot of processing about the boyfriend, and processing about just all of the things that you're processing. There's a lot of things going on in your head, so much movement in your head. They want you to just be more present, just to have more staying more out of that headspace. Okay, what happens is our heads begin to, our brains. Our brains are something that we really have to learn how to program. We are given so much instruction on this planet on learning reading and writing and math and language, and I'm sure you spend a lot of time in school learning things when you're going through the process of becoming a nurse. So much schooling happens that we tend to allow the mind to just, we put a bunch of knowledge in it, but then we let it work on default mode, where it tends to have a negative kind of the brain kind of tends to go to negative scenarios more often than not. We have automatic negative thinking, or ants, right? There are thoughts that come up tend to be more negative. There are amazing statistics about our brain. Each person has between 12 and 60,000 thoughts per day. Okay?
Right.
80% of those thoughts are the same thoughts that you had yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Same ones. Okay?
Right.
95% of the thoughts are negative. So the majority of the thoughts that we're thinking are the same ones that we're thinking day to day to day, and they have a negative influence to them. All right? 95 to 99% of those thoughts are subconscious. So we don't even recognize that there's all of this processing and thinking going on. And the more that I talk through your situation, Michelle, the more that I'm getting the confirmation of the essential oils being something that you can use to bring you back to present. It's important for you to get present because there's so much brain activity happening with you. All right?
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay, good. I'm glad we spent a little bit more time digging and uncovering that. So when I gave that first statistic, but when I said between 12 and 60,000 thoughts per day, our natural tendency is to think that the 60,000 thought range, well, those are our smart, brilliant minds, right? And then the 12,000 thoughts, like if you're on the lower spectrum of that, that's probably our people who are not so smart in the planet. Actually, they don't have a correlation to each other, all right? The people who are actually the most enlightened, and we think of intelligence as being like book smarts, right? I'm talking enlightenment here now. The people who have the most real intelligence, the most enlightenment happening, are the people who have less thought, are the people who are on that 12,000 range, because they've learned to actually not do a whole lot of thinking because they're present. They're being as opposed to thinking. They've learned to calm down all of that automatic processing that happens inside of the brain. Now, yoga is a great way to do it. Like we talked about, the essential oils. The essential oils will do it like in the moment for you, bring you like in a moment when you really need it. But in terms of being able to stay in that state of presence and being over long periods of time, not just for a moment, it requires practice on our part. It requires a meditation practice. So they're really inviting you to find, even if it's just 5 minutes a day of meditation that is important to you or that you really like, do just 5 minutes of meditation a day. And here's a little exercise that I'm going to share with not only you, Michelle, but everybody out there to move into the next stage. Oh, and I love this too. They're tying it all together because you're talking about a lot of transition, right? Transition in your life. Transition in your physical life is symbolic for the spiritual transformation and transition that you're undergoing, okay? And as we all, happening all across the planet right now, this is happening for every single person. We are transitioning from 3D into 4D up into 5D. So here's the difference. 3D is that very polar experience where there are north and south poles. We experience joy through our sadness through our joy, like I explained earlier when I talked about like the theory of contraries. You know, Geoffrey Chaucer, and I remember that from my English literature class. It was like one of those things that stuck to me because it was so profound. He said we don't fully experience one emotion until we've experienced the opposite. Okay, that's an example of being in the 3D, very, very 3D. As we move up into 5D, which is where our ascension process is heading, and then on up from there, on up into 6D, D being dimension, like fifth dimension living. When we reach fifth dimensional living, which is where our planet, that's what we're hoping to accomplish this time around, right? We're hoping to actually make it to 5D. That's when we're living in the default mode of peace, love, and joy in our life. We're not reaching for trying to stay calm and stable and happy. It's when we've learned to be at that. That's our baseline resonance. And the entirety of society right now, Michelle, is moving into that. And it's a big transition time. Things that no longer are serving us, such as relationships, are ending. These things are coming up to be released. Old thought patterns that we no longer need, they're coming up to be released. So this transition is happening not only to you, but to everyone on the planet in whatever circumstantial ways that it's important for them to experience, right? Now, maybe not everybody's breaking up with their partner, but everybody's experiencing a release of things that no longer serve them. One really incredible thing that human beings can do to help facilitate this transition is to move our consciousness from our head into our heart. Now, we, especially intellectual people, feel like it's the brain's job to do the processing. This is the processing unit, right? Right. Not many people are aware that our heart actually has the same capacity to process our life. There are neurons in your heart that can process the same way your brain processes. All right? So a really awesome technique, and I encourage you, Michelle, and anybody out there who is resonating with what I'm saying, set a timer on your phone. Set an alarm to go off every day. If you like 11:11, I like 11:11. I like that time. If there's a certain time that you like, if you like noon, doesn't really matter what time you choose, but choose a time and have an alarm go off every single day. And when that alarm goes off, you take a moment. And we're going to do this here together. Everybody send your consciousness, your awareness to your brain, your head space. All right? And now using your intention, using your imagination, I want you to gather up all of the consciousness there inside of your mind. Gathering it up into a beautiful crystal ball of consciousness. And then slowly sinking that ball of consciousness with your intention, with your imagination, sinking that beautiful crystal ball of consciousness down into your heart space, and allow your consciousness to come to rest in your heart. When we learn to process life through our heart space, that's when we will fully enter the 5D, the fifth dimension. That will allow us to stay fully present in our bodies and in our experiences. So I do see you on the right path, okay? I see that there are going to be some more transitions and some more shifts that come up for you. But the next thing for you to work on is to calm down all of that brain activity and just become very present. And you can do that by doing.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say it's really funny because I keep saying I'm going to meditate. I keep listening to all these books about meditating, and like that's all I read, and this and this. But yet I never do it. I keep saying I'm going to do it, but then I just haven't done it. Guess what? You just meditated really right funny. Here. Yeah. So and I know I'm into the now moment for you. Just take the time. Yeah. And I feel like the now moment. I paint, like that's meditation too. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Every time you paint, that is meditation, 100%. Because it's mindful can't meditation. Stop, you know. So I want you to shift your thinking instead of saying to yourself, "I am going to meditate." What is that? That's putting it in future tense. I am going to do something. Instead, I am meditating. I'm a meditator. Guess what? You just meditated right here. You are a meditator. You can officially, truly say that about yourself now. I am a meditator. I am practicing meditation. As you're painting, tell yourself, I am practicing meditation. And you're gonna shift that energy of having it out in the future to bringing it into the present for you. Okay. They don't want you to be looking for and trying to figure out what these new changes are, what the other transitional pieces are going to be, because you don't know them yet. They're saying there are things that until you calm down, because if you start looking for them, then you're going to start creating stories in your mind that have to do with all of this brain activity that's going on. So you're going to pull all of these pieces of thoughts and you're going to create a story with it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. Allow yourself to get really good at being in that state of presence, and you will naturally understand and know what the next phases look like for you. Okay, that makes sense. Good. I do see a transition with your nursing. I'll let you know. I don't see a moving completely out of that industry or out of the healthcare industry, but I do see you doing a little something a little different than what it is that you're doing now. And they're making it a little bit more clear. And again, this is just one possibility, but I want to share because it's coming up. Okay. So as you have an elderly mother, yes, who's in assisted living. Right. So what I'm seeing is that when you move through the process of her transition as she passes, and when she and I don't have a time frame for that, but when you will be with her when she moves through the process of transitioning into light form, right? That there could be such a profound experience in there with you that you might shift and be somebody who helps people transition from this realm into other realms. Does that make sense? Mhm. Okay. How do you feel? Is that hard for you to think about? No, because, I did it with my grandparents. I do it with pretty much my whole family. I'm always the one that stays and holds their hand. And no one else in my family. It's always been who's doing it, and I've done it with a lot of patients. So, I am good with that.
You remember how I talked about becoming a light worker and bringing light into whatever area it is that you're working? They really want you to be aware of how much light emits from your soul and how much light work you're doing in the career that you have in the nursing. Okay?
Okay.
Are you a joke teller? Are you a laugher?
I love to laugh. I'm not really good at
laugh.
jokes, but yeah.
So, okay, I like it that you're good at laughter. They want you to laugh a lot. They want to tell you this about laughter. Laughter is a particular frequency of energy that breaks up negative vibrations. So the more you laugh in the presence of your patients, the more you are breaking up the areas of dis-ease or disharmony inside of their body. And they want to bring your awareness to that. They want you to realize that you do that, because that increases the effectiveness of it. It happens whether, like, laughter breaks up negative energy whether you realize it's happening or not. But as soon as you realize it's happening, then it breaks up even more.
Yeah.
Bringing your awareness to it magnifies it. So they wanted to let you know that about yourself too. Okay?
Okay.
Cool. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing. And Emily, this has been a madcap 2-hour marathon, and I'm just so excited that you were able to come on this show this evening. Now, for people who are interested in connecting with you to continue to do work or to ask questions or whatever it is, that if they want to do classes, how can people reach you, and what are you offering services?
The best way to reach me is through my website. It's www.askyourrecords.com. Again, that's www.askyourrecords.com. And I have a variety of different services and opportunities to work with me. Of course, I do private sessions, private Akashic record reading and healing sessions, and that's similar to what we've done tonight, where you can ask questions, and then there are certain healing protocols that will come in, like advice for you to try, like shifting your consciousness like we did, like with Keisha, learning to observe abundance everywhere around you and bless it. Like, those are specific protocols. Those are specific healing protocols that come in from the Akashic records. So there are Akashic record sessions. I also do private chakra balancing and DNA activations. So when we talked about that Christ consciousness, there's a correlation to activating all 12 strands of our DNA that starts to bring us into that energy of Christ consciousness. So that's a service that I provide for people. If you're interested in doing chakra balancing, our chakras are energetic vortexes inside of our body that create a certain vibration that we send out into the planet. A lot of times we can get out of balance and out of harmony, and we're sending out a vibration that we don't really want to be sending out. So we can adjust those things by going in and doing the chakra balancing and harmonizing. And with that session, we also do the DNA activation. So it's like an energetic tune-up for people who really want to just get really in alignment with their own highest vibrational energy. I also do a service, a third eye activation. If people are interested in having their third eye activated, I perform that private service for people. And I also do past life clearings. And not only do we clear things from our past life, so there can, and again, you said not everyone believes in reincarnation, and I respect whatever anybody believes. If you have a belief system in place, it's serving you to the point when our belief systems no longer serve us, and then we outgrow them. But as long as we have them, they're serving us for some reason. So I honor whatever belief system is in place for you. It's serving you for whatever reason it's serving you. But for people who are interested in going into the past lives, there's karma. Karma is unlearned lessons. There's certain karma that we carry over from previous lifetimes and even from the past in this lifetime, lessons that we didn't learn, so patterns that we keep repeating over and over in our life. If we want to take a look at what those are and clear some of those out, I offer a past life reading in clearing session. But not only do we need to clear things always from our past life, we can also go back and get skills. We can go into our Akasha or into our past or future lives, and we can bring skills from our skill toolbox into our present life. So activating different psychic senses, activating the ability to body scan, all of those are examples of things that we can go in and get and activate when we're doing that past and future life work. There's also the opportunity to come learn and read the Akashic Records. Like I shared, there's a course where you can actually learn how to do what I'm doing here today. And I have students from all over the planet who are working through the process, and we are a family inside of there. There's so much support and growth mindset that happens inside the class learning to read the Akashic Records. And, of course, there's the opportunity to connect with me inside the Akashic Academy, which is Joelle has reached out and joined the Akashic Academy. And inside the Akashic Academy, and that's literally like the deal of the century. It's $11.11 a month for a private membership community, and there are classes, intuitive development classes inside the Akashic Academy. There are full moon and new moon ceremonies. There are prayer circles. There's the community and the family inside of that zone to support your growth. Is really, really phenomenal. We are in the process of editing our very first magazine, so there will be a publication that comes out of the Akashic Academy known as the Akashic Magazine. And for anybody who is like wanting to come in and learn and see what it's all about, I highly recommend checking out that community. And all of that information is on my website. If you go to my website, askyourrecords.com, click on the menu there, and you can see private services, you can see learning to read the Akashic Records, you can see the Akashic Academy, and there are opportunities for you guys to reach out and to connect with me through my website. I did want to do a special offer for you guys tonight in terms of the private sessions. And any of you who would like to book a private session, any one of the healing sessions that I mentioned, whether it's the Akashic Record healing session, whether it's the chakra balancing, the DNA activation, whether it's the past life reading, or whether it's the third eye activation, any of those services, if you let me know that you've heard me tonight on the Joelle Coachman show here in the VIberary, then I will be more than happy to extend you a half-price reading and healing session if you're interested in that. And like I said, make sure that you mention that you heard me here tonight with Joelle.
Yay, yeah, I love when things like that happen. We'll definitely say the Good Vibe Tribe, since we're all connected,
Good
Vibe Tribe. To spread the vibes. And I do want to mention to everyone real quickly, we're a little over time, so hopefully this will still be part of the broadcast. I do see we had several people listening. We had several people in the chat room, including Dallas and Ann and a couple of anonymous logins. And then we had Monica and Stacy and Tanya, who all wanted to say hello. They didn't want readings, but they were expressing that they were enjoying the conversation this evening and found it very enlightening, Emily.
Wonderful.
So you have
quite
a fan base that's been here. And I am excited because on Thursday night on the Viberarian show, which is just a talk show, a topical show, this Thursday, 9 o'clock, same phone number, same channel, you will be back with a classmate, a person who learned from you, one of your students and graduates of the Akashic Academy, who is now a certified records reader, Brian. Will be on the panel Thursday, and we're gonna talk Akashic Records. We're not going to do readings on that show. It's going to be about an hour conversation, but everything you wanted to know or ask about this library of energy, we're going to be examining it. So I definitely invite you to come back. And Emily, thank you so much for joining me this evening. This has been the Psychic Inside Show. Stay posted because we're going to put this up on Facebook and YouTube so that you can catch the rebroadcast. And I appreciate all of you who tuned in this week. And I hope that this week brings you all of the abundance that you can possibly hold to overflowing, and that you receive what you intentionally put out in terms of manifestation. Thank you so much to all of you, and namaste.
Namaste, everybody.